and started telling stories. I didn't know nothing. I was raised over in the Verdigris River Valley over in Oklahoma. Wouldn't anybody in their right mind ever call us hillbillies. We moved up to Lawrence County where the foothills were straightening out, going, straighten up guys, we got to be Kansas here in just another county. So I didn't know nothing about the hill culture. But when I come to work here, I went to work hard trying to figure it out. Because once I got here, I had taught school for 2 years and pretty much fled screaming. High school? Oh yeah. I love my kids, but Lord, I'm telling you, teacher, you got to be an absolute saint to teach, and I've never been accused of that. I got down here and I went to work and I studied. And I learned about stuff. And this was until the advent of multimedia. This was, I hear the flag throwers coming, but they don't make that much noise as they go by. I'll just keep telling you. This was one of the most isolated, insulated places on earth. There were people that lived here in the Ozarks that lived and died, never having been more than 10 miles from where they was born. When I first come to work here, I worked with an old man that sat in the window of the train station down there, a man by the name of Kenneth Holt. He's passed on now. I've been here 35 seasons. Them things happen. Kenneth Holt was one of the Stone County Holts. Well, you got the Yokums, you got the Holts, and you got well, that's about it. And the Powells. That was it. The Powells was the upscale folks. The Holts and the Yokums was kind of down there scrambling for a living. Okay. Kenneth Holt lived in a little house up north of here, just off of Highway 13 on what they call Lacoon Ridge. And as you're driving north on 13, you're going to see Coon Ridge Road, because they kept that name. And he lived in the house that he was born in, that his daddy was born in, that his granddaddy built. And I always used to say to people, if you're going into some hillbilly's house, check the wall as you walk through the front door. And if the wall is about that thick, that's right, they put siding on it, son. That is a log cabin. They've upgraded it, they've modernized it, but that's a log cabin that has just been spiffed up. Well, here in the hills, there are things that you guys probably never even heard of. This place was so insulated, so far back in the hills, hardly anybody had a doctor. Hardly anybody had somebody that could take care of them. Thank God for granny women. I kind of fill that niche here at the homestead. If it can be done with herbs and poultices, I probably know about it, because I have learned what the hillbillies knew. One day a young man came up behind me. I was sitting down at that end of the porch, leaned up against the porch rail, and a young man came up behind me, and the boys were playing music, and he said, Aunt Judy? And I said, yes, dear. And he said, my great-grandmother just died. And I said, oh, I'm so sorry, but you're of an age, you had her for a number of years. All of my great-grandparents was dead by the time I was born. My last great-grandparent died in the spring before I was born in the summer. He said, and we was talking about who wanted what out of Granny's house. And he looked at him and said, I don't want nothing but the Madstone. And I said, bring it? And he said, uh-huh. I brought it to show it to you. A Madstone comes into play when you have either a snake bite or you have been bit by a dog you suspect might be rabid. Everybody in town knew who had the Madstone, and it was always clean and ready to go. You find a Madstone, it's a little calcareous formation, usually bigger around than it is thick. Comes out of the stomach of a deer. The very best ones come out of the stomach of an albino deer. When you get them clean, and I'll tell you how to clean them here in a while, the one I saw was in a jewelry box with cotton on both sides of it to keep it clean. You take the Madstone and you lay it right on wherever you have been bit, and it sticks. And it will stick to your skin as it draws the poison out of the wound. After a bit, if you need to, get yourself a bowl of clean sweet milk. Not buttermilk, sweet milk. Pull that stone off that bite and put it in there, and oh, that milk will turn a nasty greenish black color. After a while, pull it out of there, put it back on the bite, and it will stick. When it's done, it'll turn loose and fall off. Then you put it in another bowl of fresh sweet milk, which turns a nasty color. And then it's clean when it doesn't turn that color. May take a couple of bowls of milk. When it's clean, rinse it off. Get the milk off the outside of it. Put it back in its box, and it's ready to go the next time. And whoever you've used it on won't have any problem from a bite if you have a Madstone. There was also things down here in the hills called blood stoppers. Now, there was a folklorist that worked down here in the Ozarks back in the teens and 20s and 30s and 40s, and he wrote in his book, Ozark Magic and Superstition, written by Vance Randolph, he wrote that there was a thing called blood stoppers, a person who everybody knew was the blood stopper. Now, blood stopping, the ability to do that got passed from generation to generation. The secret would be passed down from one to another. And I have now read every word Vance Randolph ever wrote. Nobody ever told him the secret, because if you tell the secret, you lose the ability. But even if you can't get to the blood stopper, you can just, if you happen to have phones down there in your hills, down around Harrison, Arkansas, they had phones back in the teens and the 20s, because the people were so isolated out there. A local man put in a phone company. I've seen my husband's bills from that time. Even with long distance calls, his phone bill was about $1.25 a month. I'm not kidding, ma'am. I've seen the checks. That was from the 60s, but that was what it cost when it was a private phone line. If you just call the blood stopper, if you've been chopping wood and you cut your foot with an axe and you can't get the blood to stop, you can just call him on the phone. And he will say the words that have been passed down to him that will enable him to stop the blood. I now know what it is. Somebody came by and said, "Do you want to know what the Bible verse is?" And I said, "Yes." Go home, dig your Bible out, friends. Ezekiel 16:6. Ezekiel, and it's the most innocuous verse you ever saw in your life. But the people that told me that said when the man got a nosebleed one day. Oh, get here. The man got a nosebleed one day and couldn't get it to stop. Had one of them breather machine? Is it on? It's on. Okay. Stick this in my pocket. Couldn't get his nose to stop bleeding. And he said, are we okay? A minute. Says it's on. Okay. Are you not getting it? Is my pocket not enough? There we go. I know what it is. I put it in my pocket. My pocket's deep in the area. Disappeared into the pocket. And you just lay this here. The man couldn't get his nose to stop bleeding, and the woman said, reached over and grabbed the Bible, flipped through, and read Ezekiel 16:6, and his nose stopped bleeding. The most innocuous verse you ever saw in your life. You know how Ezekiel was. He was allowing about this and raving about that. And the verse says, and I saw thee, Jerusalem, cast out like an unwanted child that no one had even wiped the blood of birth from. That's the verse. And she said, we swear by it. That's all I know. That's all I know. However, let me tell you another. This is an amazing, amazing place, friends. I'm not even telling you about the really ugly stuff. There are people here in the hills, and the local people just kind of say, well, that was probably him. Of course, you know he's a shapeshifter. And if somebody is a shapeshifter, they will turn themselves into, and they always have one shape that they turn into. And this story was told to me by a fellow that used to be the glass blower down here, and he said, well, everybody knew that Pa Stubbs was a shapeshifter and a witch. And they finally got tired of him, and a bunch of boys went over there one time and set his cabin on fire. Just before the roof fell in, a great big black dog ran out of the cabin. They said, okay, that was him. He's gone. Oh my. That's as far as I'm going with that. I know a lot more stuff, but if you have to, you got to get your own Vance Randolph books. Get good luck. Most of them's been out of print since the 50s. Poor old Vance never did make much of a living renting up books about the Ozarks, but thank God he did, because that's where I learned what I needed to know. Now, I got a real story coming up. A fella came up to me, this has been 25 years ago now. I have been here since the Lord was a boy, I'm telling you. This is my 35th season. Beats the fire out of teaching school. I've done that too. Fella come up to me, and I knew before he even opened his mouth he was going to lie to me. Because I have been doing this for years, but I have discovered a gender gap. Men tell me stories, women tell me stories in about equal amounts, but they look different when they're going to lie to you. Yeah, woman comes up to lie to you. They look like stool marks. They stand up real straight like they lace their stays too tight. They fold up their hands like they just escaped from choir practice. And they look at you and they sniffle. And they say, you know, and then they lie to you. I mentioned that one time, and I had some buddies that was in the Cajun Connection band. They'd never noticed that. Sure enough, about 10 minutes after I told one of them, here he came coming screaming back to me. I'd no more than told him the beginning of this story, and a little woman walked up to him, folded her hands, looked at him, and said, you know. He fell down laughing. She looked at him and said, I hadn't told it to you yet. Yeah, men come up to lie to you. They look like bank robbers because they kind of sidle up to you like a hound dog, buttering out the side of their mouths. And the dead giveaway on a man is if he is rubbing his nose like this or like this, it's a lie. Remember that, girls. If he gets the nose and the mouth like this, it's a biggin. If he gets the nose, the mouth, and the chin and a kind of a double figure eight like that, it's a whopper. This man walked up to me, almost cleaned his nose off the front of his face. Walked up and went, I went hunting yesterday. I said, you did? Did you do any good? He said, oh yeah. Daddy taught me when I was a boy, you go hunting, you get 3 bullets. You can't get something fit to eat for 3 bullets. You deserve to go hungry. It'll improve your marksmanship. He said, I was plumb ashamed of myself. I were already shot and missed. I got 1 bullet left and nothing to show for the other 2. So I'm sneaking along with my 1 bullet in the gun after a bit something over to the left went russ. I looked. Was the biggest buck deer I've seen in years. I'm about to draw down on him. Something to the right went russ. I looked. It's the biggest black bear I've ever seen in my life. I'm looking at the bear and the deer and the bear and the deer and the bear and the deer. I don't know which one to kill. So I drawed my hunting knife out of my belt and I throwed it and stuck it in the tree right in between the critters. Bam! Shot the knife blade, split that bullet in half. Half of it killed the deer, half of it killed the bear. Don't take this too serious. This is the lie as art form. Yes. Not only that, when the knife blade peeled that bullet in half, the knife flew up in the air like a big pinwheel, went hit a flock of ducks flying through, going quank, 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 quank. Went through them ducks like a dose of sauce, just sliced, diced, and dressed them. He said, I was excited. I ran over there and started picking up ducks. I should have remembered one teeny, tiny detail. The knife's still up there. Came down, hit me on the head, helped Firster to kill me. As it was, it knocked me senseless. After a bit, I fell in the creek. Cold water brought me to pretty quick. I floundered around a while and spluttered and tried to crawl out of the creek. Couldn't. Both boots and my overalls are full of bass. I am determined not to leave none of this good stuff behind for the critters. Everything edible I'm taking home for the family to eat. So I got it all figured out. Got everything field dressed, skinned out, and stringered. So I got a big string of ducks hanging around my neck. Big stringer of bass clamped in my feet. Got the deer up on one shoulder, worked the bear up on the other shoulder. Tried to pick them up for one big load. Went, collar button, couldn't stand the pressure, flew off, went big across the creek, hit a rabbit in the head and killed him. Graveyard dead. Said, not a bad day's hunting for a feller with 1 bullet. I like it. Oh, mercy, mercy, mercy. Okay, now, I hope y'all have, oh no, I'm not even going to tell you yet. Yeah, I am. If you're here because you think you got a really good seat to watch the Homestead Pickers, you're in the wrong place. That's why all their stuff is gone. They're going to be down at the Pickers shed. Go down there, back behind Apple Butter, or you can sit here and listen to me for 5 or 10 more minutes, and then I'll shut up and you go down there. Whatever. Well, you want to go, and they're going to pick for an hour down there, so you won't have a problem getting down there in time to hear them pick. Wait a minute. We used to have a fella here by the name of Marshall Hubbard, was the marshal that passed out the little badges to the little children on the streets. He was a dandy. I love listening to that man sing. Yeah, get up here so you don't have to swim in the sun. Yeah, there you go. Pick your rug up. Don't. You need a woman to follow you around. That's pretty plain.
She ain't following no more.
She ain't following no more. Okay. This was Marshall Hubbard's absolute favorite story. One Sunday night during Sunday night church, the devil appeared right there in the church. Good Lord, he was about 6'12". The flames coming off of him went all the way plumb to the rafters. He got the pitchfork and the cloven hooves and the whole business going, people screaming, running, jumping out the windows. Everybody's gone, except for one old man that's sitting there kind of leaning on his cane, kind of sucking at his teeth. And the devil looked down and said, "What are you still doing here?" And the old man looked at him, just kind of shrugged. And the devil said, "Don't you know who I am?" And the old man said, "Oh yeah, devil, I recognized you right off." The devil said, "But why ain't you afraid of me?" And the old man said, "Been married to your sister for 47 years. That's good. Let's see, as long as we're doing favorites, let me do Danny Aiken's favorite. You know, I've known Danny Aiken ever since he got here 28 seasons ago. I consider Danny to be one of my best friends. Although when he first got here, we had just a couple of problems because he'd been living on the road for so many years. He was doing what he called the Holiday Inn circuit, which means, holy cow, you spend most of your time going from one to the other. He said, if you don't have a place, he said, I finally made myself out of a camper, out of the bed of a 56 Chevy pickup. He said, just enough place in it to boil some beans and sleep. But he said, that works better than almost anything. But when he got on a stage down there, when he didn't have to go nowhere, oh, he went nuts. The way the schedule was set up at the time, down on the Old Valley stage, you had a 30-minute show time, and then there was a 15-minute changeover time, and then another 30-minute show time. Well, Danny would start, and he would be doing the dog and doing the mule and doing all them funny animal noises, and he'd sing all the way through his 30 minutes. Then he'd sing all the way through his 15 minutes of changeover time and 5 or 10 minutes into my show time. So I evolved a system. I had to point out to him without actually getting in his face. Didn't want to do that. I liked him. As soon as his 30 minutes was up, I would step out into sight from where I was. And at 1 minute intervals, I would take one more step. By the time the 15 minutes was over, I was at the stage and checking my watch. When it came time for my show, I would put one foot on the stage and look at him. And he'd say, I've got to quit now. No, you had to quit 15 minutes ago, but you didn't do it. I finally got him to where he would do a 30-minute show, kind of, and shut up. But, oh, man, this is Danny's favorite. This is one of my oldest stories. I have been telling this story for so many years. It has undergone a great many revisions, even though it's still the same show. The same story. Okay, here we go. You running off?
Yeah.
You got your story and you gone. Okay, just be that way.
Thank you.
Good to see you, Summer. Bye-bye. Okay. Tiny little youngins. Now, we studied on this for a long time, and we figured out that there's really only 4 stages of development that your youngin goes through. When they're first born, come out, what you got's a baby potato. They don't do nothing but lay there and eat and poop and occasionally smile at you. Then they go scooting around on their bellies on the floor, and you have rug rats. Everybody knows that. Then they get a little bigger, and they become, they hit a stage that long ago we named ankle biters. We'll get back to that. Then they get tall and long-legged and become yard apes and go off to school and become somebody else's problem. Yeah. So, how you can tell your youngin' is an ankle biter is this. The little critters are just walking and talking real good, and them critters have a voice that will pierce steel. And they will ask the most embarrassing questions their mama can possibly imagine, and they save them till the house is full of company. Or the preacher comes for Thursday night visitation. Either one of them two will do. So here's Grandpa and the preacher sitting on the divan, slurping, little cups of sassafras tea. And little ankle biter comes over and leans up against Grandpa's leg, actually removes his finger briefly from his nose, and while lovingly wiping his hands on Granddaddy's breeches legs, he looks up and in that sweet voice says, "Grandpapa!" That's the voice. "How come you see them two strange dogs beating each other for the first time? Why is the first thing them dogs do is rush over there and go to sniffing on each other's tails?" Preacher almost bit a chunk out of his teacup. But Granddaddy, who takes him kid questions as a challenge, he ain't gonna say, "I don't know." He gonna lie. It's an honored tradition, lying to your grandchildren. He said he gonna, and the big kids that taught that little ankle biter that question know that. So they're listening and giggling behind their hands. And Granddaddy said, "Honey, there's reason for that. Years and years ago, all the dogs on Sunday morning would go to the dog church." Y'all didn't know that, obviously. They go to church when they get into the dog church to be polite. Just like men come into church, they take their hats off to be polite and put them on. Don't put your hat on in church. Well, the dogs would come into the dog church, and every one of them, they'd take the tail off, hang it on the tail end rack at the back of the church. They'd go in, sit on the dog pews, sing dog hymns, except they call that but bringing in the sheep. And they would listen to the dog preaching. One morning, tragedy struck. Church caught a fire. And the dog preacher is up in front and sparks flew right through the fire screen, set the rugs on fire. Before he could even whimper, it had set on fire them gauze curtains that had just been bought the week before to keep up with the cat Methodists. And the dog preacher, he hollers, which, in case you don't speak dog, I'll translate. That means, "Fire, fire, the church is on fire. Y'all dogs get." They did. They leaped in a panic, thundered out the door, and as they went by the tail rack, he jumped up, went, grabbed the first tail they went to, came by and went on. Honey, not one of them dogs managed to hit his paws on his rightful tail, and to this day, that's what them dogs is doing. They're still looking for their very own tails. Yeah.
That's truth right there. That's
Yeah.
in the Bible, I believe.
Yeah, I told you that's Danny's favorite.
That's gospel right there.
Yep. I'm going to quit. If you will note, it's about 4 minutes to 4. There's Steve. Greg Bailey just walked in the kitchen, and so did Danny. So if you want to, you can just tromp through the kitchen and follow them down to the picking shed. Except they're going to go down the back steps. If you don't do steps well, go around the church. And there ain't no steps. Or if you're really foolhardy, go over yonder and go down that slippery slope where the chips are. I don't do that. But it's because I got lousy knees. Except for this one that I just got fixed. Oh yeah. Down hurts. Up, I'm fine. Down hurts. I was so grateful to get this thing fixed last winter, and I'm doing so well with it. It don't do nothing to me. It don't pop, it don't grind, it don't crack anymore. I just smile.
You don't feel like it's got a hot nail going through it, does it?
Every now and then you get that, it's like, did somebody just stab me with an ice pick? Yeah. Oh well. And I looked at my husband and I said, "You know, I like this one smell. I might have to get this one done." He said, "After I'm dead."
You don't want to wait on you.
Oh man, he really did work awful hard getting me through that first couple of weeks after surgery.
Did you get your well in?
Huh?
Get your well in?
Oh yeah. Well, I didn't understand that.
You were getting your well in last year. You put your water in.
Oh, no, I haven't done that yet. I don't have enough money yet. I'm still working on the money. It's coming. I'm very close. But I'm going to have to borrow a chunk of money. but not much. I am determined that I'm going to have enough money to get a well drilled and just write him a check.